Okay, so now let's quickly look at the value types and the reference types. Like I said, the data types are categorized into based on how they are stored, how they store the values in the memory. Okay, so in C Sharp, there is three categories. There is value types, and then there is reference types, and the pointer types. Okay, so the thing is, a data type is a value type if it holds the data value within its own memory space. That means that a variable of these data types directly contain values. Like, don't tell you something like if I say int x is 24, right? So that is a value type. That is an example of the value types because this data type directly contain its values. Okay. Now what's going to happen is that the variable x, if we consider the variable x, the system stores 24 in the memory space allocated for variable x. Okay. Now we've got data types that, or different data types that are actually value types. You can think about it. As I mentioned, integer is one of them. Int is one of them. Boolean is also a data type. I mean, it's also a value type. A character, decimal, double, struct. Okay, there is others that maybe I forgot, but there is quite a lot of value types. Now we can also pass a value type variable. So when you pass a value type variable from one method to another, the system will create a separate copy of that variable in another method. So if the value changes in one method, it wouldn't affect the value in another method. Okay, let's actually do an example. So I'm going to remove all of these things. Let's just keep this a little bit cleaner. So let's say I've got in my main method I've got an int x, which is equals to 100, right? And I'm just gonna print out right line the value of x. Okay, and then I'm gonna have a method somewhere. Where can I put it? Somewhere here. So this method, I'm just gonna make it static. Static means you cannot create an object of that method, it cannot be instantiated. Okay, so anyway, we'll get to that a little bit later on. So I've got this method, and I'm just gonna call it change. All right, and I'm gonna pass a parameter there of y, and here I'm gonna say actually let's pass the same parameter of x. Let's pass the same, no, it's fine. And then I can say y is 200, and then let's just print out console.write line, which is x. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna y, it has to be y there, and I'm just gonna call this method, which is change. I'm gonna call this method change into the main method, and since it's taking a parameter, I'm gonna pass that parameter, which is gonna be what? Which is gonna be x. So remember, this x is going to be stored there. Okay, so now if we print this, we expect this to print the original value of x, and then we expect to print this one. Okay, so but let's check what's gonna happen. So if we compile this, then it's actually printing that, but in the hood it's supposed to print another value there. No, it's because I didn't print it, so I need to print x again. I need to print x again here, just to show you what I'm talking about. So now it's gonna print 100, 200, 100. Why? Because variable x in the main method remains unchanged. It remains unchanged, this variable, even though I call the change method just to change it from it, but it remains unchanged, still 100. Even after we pass it to the change method, okay, it remains unchanged, because if the value got changed in that method, it doesn't affect the variable in another method. Okay, now let's talk about reference types. Let's quickly talk about reference types. So if I were to create, let me just remove this. Actually, I can just comment it out in case you want that. So if I were to have a string name, and this is equal to Joseph. So this is a reference type. So unlike a value type, a reference type doesn't store its value directly. Okay, so instead it stores the address. It actually stores the address where that value is being stored. Okay, so in other words, a reference type contains a pointer to another memory location that holds data. So now the reference types will be strings, arrays. I don't know if I can write them down. So it's strings, arrays, classes. Class is also a reference type. What else? A delegate. Although we're not gonna really get into delegates that much. Okay. Now, let's say we pass. Let's say now we do the same example that we did previously when we pass a reference type variable from one method to another. So you'll see that it doesn't create a copy. Instead, it passes the variable's address. So if we change the value of the variable in the method, it will be reflected in the calling method. Okay, so let's do something like that. So I still have this. Actually, I can have a method called change. Okay, so here I will. In this method, I'm gonna do a student, a type of student, okay, and I'm just gonna pass student 1. Okay, I'm gonna pass student 1, and then now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say student 1 dot name is William. Student 1 dot name is William. Now if I go back to my main method, I can just say, okay, so what I can do is just comment out this, and then what I can do, I can say student, let's just call this one student 2. Okay, and then I'm gonna create an object of student, and is new student. Okay, now I'm gonna say student1 dot name is Chris, Christina. Okay, now let's see if we call the change method. So we can call the change method. Remember, it has it takes a parameter. Okay, so we can say student1 pass it as a parameter there, or as a value of the parameter. Okay, and now if we console dot log, I'm thinking about JavaScript now. It's console dot write line. Yeah, like so I want student1 here. What did I do? Oh, I need to say student1 dot name. Like, why is it not? So if I go there, it's printing with it William. Because why? The thing is, like I explained, when you pass a variable type from one method to another, it doesn't create a copy, a new copy. You see? So instead it passes the variable's address. So it's still pointing to that address where William is stored. Even though we actually changed the value, but it's still pointing to that address. So instead it passes the variable's address. So if we change the value in a variable method, it will also be reflected in the calling method. You see now. So what happened here, we actually passed the student object, okay, which is student1 to the change method, that we created. So what's happening, it actually passes the memory address of student1. That's why when we call the change method, it changes the student name, because thinking about this, student1 is Chris. It's supposed to print out Chris, but it does change it, you see. So it actually is actually changing the student name of student1 object, because student1 and student2 are both pointing in the same location, in the same address in the memory. Because now you will have the default value of the reference type variable is actually null. It's null. So when they are not initialized, okay. So null means it means it's not really referring to any object, okay. So now a value type variable cannot be null because it holds a value, so not in the memory address. So I think C#3 or C#2, they introduced nullable types using which you can assign null to a value type variable, or declare a value type variable without assigning a value of it. Okay, let's stop this video here.